In today's lesson, we'll cover the basics of CSS animation, including the animation property and keyframes. Then, we'll take a look at using Chrome's developer tools for animation, and finally, I'll introduce an optional homework assignment you can do in CodePen. By the end of this video, you'll know enough to write your own animations. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our first animation. Now before we write any new code, let's look at the code we've got on the screen right here. So in our HTML, we have a div with a class of ball, and then we just have a little plus sign in the ball. And then in our CSS, we have some styles for the ball, and then we have some styles that center the plus sign. So the plus sign is only meant to help demonstrate the motion of the ball as it moves. Now, one core concept of animations is called keyframes. So think of keyframes as the set of properties that play out as the animation occurs. So if we wanted this ball to roll to the right across the screen, we would define a set of keyframes called roll. And then at specific time intervals, or in this case percentages, we can say what we want to happen to the ball as the animation plays out. So maybe after 10% of our animation, we want the background color to change. So maybe we want the background to be red. And then again, we can set up another keyframe at 50%. So halfway through, maybe we want our ball to be green instead. And then finally, at 100%, maybe we want the ball to turn yellow. Okay, so we have our set of keyframes, but how do we actually attach these keyframes to this ball? So the way we do that is with the animation property. Now, the animation property is actually a shorthand for a bunch of different other properties, but for the case of this demonstration right here, let's just go ahead and keep it simple. So the first thing we'll do is we will write the animation name. So in this case, it is roll. So now we've got the animation associated with our keyframes, but now we need to tell it how long we want the animation to take. So let's go with 1 second. And then next we need to define our animation timing function. So how do we want this to play out? There's a lot of different ways, but we're going to go ahead for the purposes of this and just call it linear. But like I said, there's a lot of different ways. We could have it ease in, which is start slow and then kind of speed up. We could have it ease in and then ease out. We could define even more specific things, but for the purposes of this, let's keep it simple. Let's go with linear. Next, we want to define our animation delay. So for us, let's just say 0 seconds because we don't want any time to have to take place before our animation starts. Then we need to define our animation direction. So what way does our animation actually progress? Let's go with normal for now. Finally, we want to talk about animation fill mode. So animation fill mode means when the animation is done, what state do we want the object to be in? So if you leave it blank, it's actually defaulting to starting over. But in our case, we'll define an animation fill mode called forwards, and that basically means when the animation finishes, just stay where it's at. Okay, so you've probably seen the animation playing out as I've been writing this code, but let me go ahead and save it and we'll see it happen again. Guess I gotta make a change here. Okay, so you can see that we've at 10%, the ball changes to red, at 50% it changes to green, and at 100% it changes to yellow. And then since we've defined the animation fill mode at forwards, you can see that it just stays at yellow. But this isn't exactly doing what we want. This is not rolling across the screen like I said. So let's go ahead and actually write some styles for that. So we don't actually need to define individual keyframes. We can just define what happens at 100%. So that means whatever's defined initially will be, you can think of that as 0%, and then whatever's at 100% is going to be what we have in the end. Another thing we can do is you can write to and from. So that is essentially 0% and 100%. I'm going to go ahead and stick with 100%. I feel like it's just a little bit more clear, but it's just a personal preference. So let's say we want to write a transform, and we want to translate X. So we want to move it horizontally. And let's say we want the ball to move 500 pixels. And let's go ahead and save that. Okay, great. So we moved 500 pixels across the screen. Doesn't look very realistic. It's kind of boring. So let's just go ahead and add a little bit more flavor to this. And we want to rotate the ball, and 360 degrees is one rotation. So I want to rotate it twice. Perfect. So you can see here that with one line of CSS, we've actually already written an animation that's pretty compelling. Okay, so we covered the animation property and keyframes. Let's take a look at Chrome DevTools for animation. So we have Chrome here, And what I've actually done is I've gone ahead off screen and I've taken the files from CodePen and I've placed them into VS Code. So this is not necessary for you to do. I just did it so that I could open it up in Chrome. But yeah, I've made a style.css and I've linked it in this index.html file. Feel free to do it if you want to, but the code is available on CodePen, so no need to do that. But if you want to follow along specifically with this part of the lesson, go ahead and do that with your favorite text editor. So now that we're back in Chrome, if I go ahead and right click, go down to inspect, you can see that I have this little animations tray down here. But let's see how I actually got that. So if I close this, this is maybe what the view looks like when you open it. On Mac, if I hit Command-Shift-P, I get this little command prompt that comes up, and I can type show animations. And that gives me this little tray down here. And if I close this and just watch this space right here, I refresh the page, you can see that that's where the representation of the animation is. And what can I do? So I have a few options here. I can replay the animation like I just did. I can replay the animation at 25% speed. I can pause the animation. I can play the animation. I can go ahead and scrub throughout the feed here. And as you can see, my animation is 1 second. So I've got 0 milliseconds. This is the quarter mark, half, 3/4, and fully done. I can also go ahead and play it at 10% speed. This is really useful if you really want to get down into the weeds of your animations. This is more useful, and we'll look later in the course at different examples when we can use this much more to our benefit. It's more useful when you actually have multiple animations going on at once. But for right now, I just wanted to kind of introduce this and show you that it's available. But one more other powerful thing while we've got DevTools open, if you go ahead and inspect, and you click on the little square here next to the animation timing function value that we have, you can see this little interactive window that lets you toggle between different animation types. And as I'm toggling, you can see the animation preview here, and you can see that the style actually gets updated right in line in our styles. So let's see if I update to fast in, linear out, I go ahead and replay the animation. You can see that it's been updated for us right here in line. I can go ahead and click right here, and then I can toggle between these states again. As you can see, the values getting updated right here. One more cool thing you can do, you don't have to accept these pre-built values. You can actually toggle through a few more. But one really cool thing is you can make your own values. So you can change the curve kind of as you want. It'll generate this little cubic Bezier value for you and update it right here in line. And if we go back and replay the animation, you can see that it looks much more lively. It's not just a linear animation timing function, it's much more alive. And I think this is just a good way to play around. Like I said, we'll use this a lot more later in the course, but I just wanted to show you it right now to introduce it in case you want to play around with it. So we briefly covered the animation tools in Google Chrome's developer tools. Now let's go ahead and look at an optional homework assignment. Okay, so your homework assignment, if you choose to tackle it, is to go to CodePen. So go to this link. I will post it in the description and I'll post it on the video itself. Go down to click fork. It'll say forking pen, and it should create a new CodePen for you. This is the one that I just had open. It's just your own copy of it, so feel free to do whatever you want. Go ahead and resize windows appropriately. And then the quote-unquote homework assignment, first of all, is, so I'm going to do this here, but it won't be in the original CodePen, so feel free to do it as well if you want to. We're going to write this out into the long form, so just while we're together, I'm going to do this. So I've gone ahead and written those all out. I can get rid of this, save, and it should be the same if I've done everything right. Okay, great. So everything's the same. So the homework assignment is to add a second animation onto this. And the way you do that is to write just after your first animation. So let's say I wanted this to roll and then I wanted it to change color. So I would go ahead and do this. And now I could stop here. And if I stopped here, everything for roll would apply to change color. So let's go ahead and leave it here and see what it does. So if I type change color, and I want the background color to be red, let's go ahead and see what happens here. Oops, I need to type change color. go ahead and save. And these two animations apply at the same time. However, for our homework assignment, I want both of them to apply, I want one of them to go first, and then I want the other one to go second. So in order to do that, we need to write an animation delay for our change color. And the way we do that is to just basically, if it's the second value here, it needs to be the second value here. And it's the same for all of these other properties too. So if we wanted the duration to be a little bit faster, we could do 1.5 seconds here. And let's say we want the animation delay to be exactly after this first animation finishes. So the way we calculate that is the first animation has a delay of 0 and it has a duration of 1, which means the total time for the first animation is 1 second. So our second animation should start after 1 second. Let's see what that looks like. Great. So you can see that the first animation finishes and then our second animation starts. So your homework is to basically copy what I did, except get more creative and add a second, third, fourth, whatever you want, but at least a second animation that starts after the first one finishes. After you've done that, go ahead and save. Then grab your link and paste the link in the comments below, and we can kind of have like a fun little homework sharing session. We can check out each other's code pens, and I think this will just be a great way to kind of get to know everybody else who's taking the course at the same time. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Come back next time and we'll dive deeper into the individual animation properties. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to be notified when the next episode is posted. Thanks for watching.